You must have heard the saying, the ground slipping from under one's feet. But for this man, it actually starts happening. The story begins with a painter named Remy who lives a peaceful life with his wife and their 2 children. One day, while playing with his kids, Remy suddenly feels like he is sinking into his chair. He quickly stands up, but this strange incident keeps bothering him. After that, even weirder things start happening to him. Sometimes, he feels like he is sinking into sofa, and other times, it seems like his bed is trying to swallow him. He has no idea why this is happening. He thinks maybe it's all in his mind. One day, while Remy is in his studio with his kids, he accidentally leaves the water tap running. Soon, the entire studio was flooded because of this mistake. Remy's entire career was ruined. He tried to save a few remaining paintings, but at that moment, he started sinking into the ground again. This time, he couldn't pull himself out and suddenly found himself in a vast ocean, but in another world. This world had not one, not two, but 3 suns shining in the sky. Just then, some tribal people saw him and started running toward him. Scared, Remy stepped back, but before they could reach him, something pulled him back into the water. The next moment, he was back in his own world. Remy knew this wasn't just a dream. When he got home, he told Lucille about it, but she refused to believe him. In reality, his wife's mind was elsewhere. She had fallen in love with her boss and now wanted to be with him. In a single day, Remy lost both his career and his wife. Even after everything, Remy tried to stay calm and talk to her wife. He wanted to solve the problem peacefully, but Lucille didn't already made her mind. Remy couldn't understand what was happening. She had brought her lover home without any fear or shame. Without saying a word, Remy let her do what she wanted. He realized she had already made her choice. Feeling hopeless, Remy said he would leave the house in a few days. Then, he went to his family for help, hoping they would support him. They listened for a while, but no one really paid much attention to him. Disappointed and exhausted, Remy went to the kitchen to make himself a cup of coffee for himself. Once again, strange things started happening. The house cat suddenly froze in midair as if time had stopped. Remy picked it up and moved it around, but it had become stiff, like a toy. He called out to his family, but then he realized everything around him had stopped moving. Time itself had frozen in place. Even the floor slowly started turning into liquid, and before he could react, he began sinking again. When he opened his eyes, he found himself deep in a jungle. He walked ahead and saw some tribal people cooking an animal over a fire. Remy tried to ask them for help, but instead, they started chasing him, wanting to cook him instead. Terrified, Remy ran as fast as train. After running for a while, he finally reached a village. He quickly hid inside a cave, but suddenly, a powerful force pulled him back. The next moment, he crashed onto the floor of his own kitchen. Everything in the kitchen was scattered everywhere. His family rushed in to see what had happened. Remy desperately tried to explain everything, but they didn't believe him. They thought he was just hallucinating because of stress. Before he could say more, he felt dizzy and collapsed. When he opened his eyes, he was in a hospital, but even there, no one believed his story. The doctors thought he was just imagining things. The next day, Remy went to his studio, but as soon as he arrived, bank officers and clients were already there, demanding their money. Suddenly, everyone froze in place. Before Remy could understand what was happening, he started sinking into the ground again. He struggled to stop himself, but he failed. For the 3rd time, he was transported to the other world. This time, he found himself sitting in a basket on top of a tree. Below him, the same tribal people were looking up at him with excitement. It seemed like they had been waiting for him. Through their gestures, Remy understood that they wanted to see him flying. Excited, Remy tried to fly, but instead, he fell flat on his face. The tribespeople quickly picked him up and forced him to eat a strange green fruit. The moment he ate it, he could suddenly understand their language. Then, the tribe chief stepped forward and explained how Remy had ended up in their world. The tribe was being terrorized by a monstrous demon. This beast would capture and eat anyone it found. The village elders had studied ancient books and discovered only a man from another world could defeat the demon. So, they had been performing magical rituals to summon their hero, and that hero was Remy. The tribe believed he was their savior, but how could a man who couldn't even fight for his own wife defeat a demon? Remy refused to help them, but the tribe's people weren't ready to let him go. To change his mind, they hung him upside down from a rock and later locked him inside a cave to plan the battle against Demon. Hungry and frustrated, Remy grabbed a watermelon nearby. But the moment he touched it, he was teleported back to his own world. This time, he didn't bother telling anyone about his experience. He knew no one would believe him. Instead, he went straight to the library and tried searching for answers on Google. But even Google had no solution for his problem. Determined to prepare himself, Remy started eating lots of protein, hoping to become strong enough to defeat the the demon. The next time he was transported back to the other world, he arrived with new energy and confidence. The tribe welcomed him and gave him a sword. They asked him how they could escape the demon. Remy came up with a plan. He told them to leave their village and move to a new place. He promised to protect them on the way. But there was a problem. According to their belief, anyone who stepped outside the village boundary would be struck by lightning from the sky. To prove them wrong, Remy boldly stepped past the boundary and nothing happened. Slowly, the entire village followed him, and soon they realized he truly was their hero. But just as they were moving, two of Demon's men appeared and blocked their path. They ordered everyone to go back to the village. But Remy wasn't afraid anymore. He was ready to fight. Remy fought bravely and even killed one of Demon's men in secret. Soon after, they received terrifying news that Demon's army was preparing to attack the village. Remy quickly returned to his world and started reading books on war tactics and history. He learned about different fighting techniques and strategies and realized that the key to winning a war was filling the fighters with courage and determination. The next time he went back, Remy gave the tribe a powerful speech. He inspired them to fight for their freedom and their families. Being the village hero, Remy had no shortage of women interested in him, but he never looked at anyone. His heart still belonged to his wife. Later, he returned to his world for a while and spent some time with his son. But when Remy came back to the tribe, he saw that the battle had already begun. The villagers were losing badly. To save them from being wiped out, Remy quickly led them back to their hideout and came up with a new plan. The next day, he sneaked into the enemy camp while they were asleep. Then, he insulted and provoked the soldiers. He slapped some, teased others, and made them chase him. His plan was working. The enemy soldiers followed him out into an empty battlefield. As soon as they were in position, Remy gave the signal to attack and hid inside a hollow tree while the villagers rained arrows down on the enemy soldiers. Half of the enemy soldiers were killed and the rest ran away in fear. The villagers bowed before Remy, recognizing him as their true hero. After the war, they moved to a new land and Remy became their king. Using his modern knowledge, he helped them build advanced structures, leading to rapid progress. Over time, the villagers started worshiping him like a god. Women surrounded him all the time, and he lived like a true ruler. One day, he even painted something as beautiful as the Mona Lisa. By then, Remy had changed. Earlier, he used to fear his ex-wife's boyfriend, but now, he was terrified of him. One day, they even got into a fight, and Remy beat him up. But power got to his head, and Remy started treating his people like slaves. At first, the villagers obeyed him silently, but as the months passed, they started speaking out against him. When Remy found out, he tried to negotiate, but the villagers told him, "We don't need fancy palaces. We need a better life." They captured him and threw him out of the village. Finally, Remy learned his lesson. When he returned to his own world, he asked his friend for help to restart his dream studio. This time, he let go of his arrogance completely. After being thrown out of the village, Remy's life took a new turn when he met a woman named Delphine. They liked each other, and everything seemed perfect, until Delphine kissed him and Remy was back into the other world. The villagers had summoned him again because their prophecy was incomplete. To truly defeat Zotan Demon, they had to kill him. Remy refused to fight, but they pushed him into the battle anyway. As the fight began, Remy picked arrow and threw it randomly. It flew straight into Zotan's chest. The monster collapsed and died instantly. The villagers cheered in victory, but then the real ritual began. To complete the prophecy, the villagers had to sacrifice Remy. When Remy realized this, he ran for his life. But the old man who had brought him here threw a magical object into the fire. If it burned completely, Remy would never be able to return home. Just as Remy was about to be executed, some villagers grabbed the burning object and threw it into the water. Because of this, Remy was transported back to his world. He woke up in a hospital, surrounded by Delphine and his wife. Delphine realized that he was not divorced, so she decided to stay away. At the same time, Remy's ex-wife saw him and realized she still loved him. She regretted her affair with Boss, realizing it was a huge mistake. Back in the tribal world, Remy became a legend. They built a statue of him and worshipped him as their hero. In the real world, Remy was now a different person. The last scene shows him on a beach with his children and his wife ready to start a new life.